Correspondent HT with Bloomberg. Mr. Ersoy, if you could please come on the stage and introduce everyone too. Thank you.
Thank you. Does it work? This one works. Hello? Do I have to switch that? Hello? Yes, it works. Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Ersoy. I work for Bloomberg, and we will have a panel now about early stage investments into Web3. I want to invite my panelists, Paula Tavangar. She is the investment principal for SwissBorg Ventures. Welcome, Paula. And Vishishtha, Head of Partnerships, Blockchain Valley Ventures. Welcome, Vish. Please have a seat. In this panel, we will try to find answers how startups can find funding in this environment, what VCs are looking for. So I want to start with you, Paula. Okay, in this current environment now, Fed is increasing the rates and all the money is flowing to US. Is it easy to find money investing? So what should the investor look for?
Thank you for the question, sir. First, to start with, such a pleasure being with you on TV, being on panels. It's a really nice panel that we're going to be having today. Starting about the investment, you're absolutely right. I feel that the private equity money dried up a bit. But still, I don't think this changed for the quality startups. I feel just that now the investment focus of most of the VC changed. Like there was a lot of projects that were doing very well just because of the hype. Like in a bull market, when the average is going up, this affects the whole market and also the new startups. So I feel that now the VCs are just way more focused on where they're deploying capital, more careful, and less deals are happening. Nevertheless, there is a lot of private equity capital deployed right now in the industry, and especially if we talk about Web3, because that's what we're also doing at SwissBorg Ventures. And based on what I'm seeing from our partner VCs and also the deals that I follow happening in the market, I feel on average on weekly basis around $100 million are deployed throughout different funding rounds, well, which is still good. But in terms of valuations, I think valuations is what shifted big time. Not so much the amount of investment, but more of the valuations. And if we compare, there was like statistics that I shared. I think if you compare last year around the same period, there were around 18 unicorns per month in Turkey specifically, and now there's not even one. And I think that this is just the effect of valuation, and this also obviously affects globally, and everywhere is the same story. But I feel like the investment is there, the valuations are more reasonable, and the funds are focused on more quality companies.
Wish you were nodding your head when Paula was speaking. I mean, I think you are agreeing with Paula. I want to ask you the same question. Now, the environment is not good for investments or maybe for startups. So how do you see the current bear market for Web3 investments?
So, thanks for the question. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, perfect. Yes, so the reason I was nodding my head was because I do actually agree with Paula on most of the points that she said, because it is, we like to call it an investor's market now, it's not a startups market.
Try again.
Yeah, sorry. This is much better. So I was saying that this is actually an investor's market now, and we internally were discussing about this, and we like to call this a market correction, not a market crash. So basically, the valuations are much more realistic. From even some valuations that we were seeing 6 months ago, 8 months ago, they were crazy. Some of the startups that would not have traction for at least a year and a half were raising at a 10 million, 15 million valuation, and it was a little I would say an overreach for seed stage or like a pre-seed stage investments. But in terms of investments from an investor's point of view, there is a lot of dry powder in the market. So people do have the money, but VCs are very selective of who they fund, and they actually need to believe in the team and the startup which they actually backed out.
Paula, said that VCs are very selective. Are you very selective in your investments? And what are the criteria that you are looking for investments? What are the VCs are looking in Web3 investments?
Indeed, we already had a very particular criteria, but now we are even more strict. So prior to the bear market, we were more open to invest prior to seeing any traction. Now this is one of the main components that we are looking, the traction in terms of valuation, because we see a lot of companies raising with literally zero users, zero revenue, like pre-launch, and they are raising at valuations above 100 million. And this was the industry standard, let's say, 8 to 12 months ago. And right now we are looking for only companies that have already existing traction, like users, as well as ideally some revenue, and not revenue in terms of like anything big, but at least something that just proves the concept. And we always look for a strong team with blockchain background. We think that that's very crucial to succeed in the industry, and not only blockchain, but also some certain level of business background, so they know how to run their business. Because we see a lot of companies having incredible technology or developing something very interesting, but then they don't know how to manage the cash flow. And such companies, in my opinion, long term are doomed. So I can say the team, the traction, the valuation, the security of the contracts is something very crucial we're looking at.
Okay, do you agree? Team, traction, valuation. What are the VCs are looking in startups?
So I'll start it from an overview of like how we approach our investments. So for example, we look at this from 3 points. So we look at where the money is flowing, where the hype is and why, and where there's most R&D happening. So this gives us a good foreseeable universe of the companies that we would try to invest in. And if we talk about startups in general, it's usually the same for Web 2, Web 3 startups. It's the founders. They should have a good technical background. They should have a good product. They should have some level of traction just to prove that there's a product market fit. People actually need what they're building. And yes, that's how easy it is to get funded. But like when I said earlier that we're selective, it's just we're not VCs are not just funding everybody now based on the hype. They're more conservative, more selective. They're holding their dry powder with them for follow-on rounds. But yeah, it's still relatively easy if you have a good product and team behind your startup.
Okay, we talk about the VC side. Now let's talk about the startup side. What are the typical mistakes that startups do? I mean, when they are looking for funding.
Yeah, I can say one mistake that I'm seeing a lot, and I think all my friends that are working in funds are also saying, not doing the research and contacting investors randomly. I think this is the biggest mistake you can possibly do. So when you're fundraising, what you want to do is to structure your round in a very smart way. You want to get few investors on board, and you want to get particular VCs that are from your sphere, and they can help you with other resources else than the investment only. And if you just start randomly messaging people over that you're fundraising, then you're just decreasing your own value for no reason. And nobody ever, trust me about that, nobody ever raised funds by dropping a message on LinkedIn like, hey, we're fundraising, do you want to invest in the next unicorn? So I have a friend working at PIMCO at fixed income desk, and since they see PIMCO investment fund like big investments, I'm also spammed, but he's spammed on another level by companies fundraising for anything from agriculture to blockchain. I think as a startup, like doing your research, knowing what you're doing, and knowing who you want to get on board, and make it exclusive for investors to be there is the only way that you can actually get investors, eventually get oversubscribed. You cannot skip steps. You need to have the product, you need to have traction, you need to have market validation, and then be very careful with who you want to get on board in terms of advisors and investors. Not simply because somebody is available, there would be the best solution. Yeah, that's my best advice for startups.
What about you, Vish? What are the typical mistakes that startups are doing?
One of the most frequent ones that we see personally is startups overvaluing themselves. It's not as much common now, but it was back like 8-9 months back. But still, I thought that people would realize this, but it's clearly not the case. So sometimes like on an intro call, I have to tell them, guys, this is how you calculate your valuation based on your annual revenue. So just like in a very friendly manner. And obviously we get spammed a lot as well, like Paula said, on LinkedIn, on our emails. We try to reach out to every startup that has reached out to us and give them some sort of feedback that how to go about it. Thank you. How to go about it, and if we invest in their sectors or not, or if it's a good product, if it's a good founder that we see that are generally looking for some advice, we try to guide them to other people in our network. So just trying to help and do our bit as much as we can. I've been an entrepreneur myself. I have been on the other side, so I know how hard it is to raise capital and reach out to investors. So yeah, just trying to help, and yeah, feel free to reach out to me if you have a good startup. Always happy to help. Even if we don't invest, I'll try and point you in the right direction and help you guys.
Now, if you look around, it's all packed. The traffic is amazing in Dubai. I haven't seen Dubai like this. I'm living in 7 years now. We can see the interest, but we are specifically talking about Web3. But if you want to talk about other topics, NFT, metaverse, crypto assets, what is the next big thing? What are investors are looking for the future big investments?
Oh, that's a really difficult question. But I can say that we in SwissBorg Ventures are currently focusing on DeFi. And since we are already DeFi native, this makes a lot of sense for us. But I think that I saw since the start of the bear cycle, I had seen more and more VCs starting to focus more on infrastructure and DeFi and mostly utility tokens. Because previously what happened is, as I said, I feel there was a huge wave of hype, and it started with metaverse, gaming, gamify, and I think that those sectors are just doing well when the overall market is doing really good. And now, in terms of, I think I shared it in another panel. I have a very strong opinion about metaverse. Currently, I think the sandbox has like a very, very small amount of users, like less than 1,000 active daily users, and I think this is a big issue. So metaverse, in my opinion, can be something really big in the next 10 years, but not short or mid-term.
What about you, Ish? Same question. What is next big thing?
Sure, that's the golden question for every investor, really, right? So, like, no one really can point out what the next big thing would be. Just to add to Paula's point, with Metaverse, we've been seeing some downfall right now, and it's like 38 users, daily active users on
I
Decentraland.
didn't want to say the number because I was thinking, oh, it's too low. Maybe I remember wrong. Yeah.
Okay. No, but yeah, it's even more insane when we see this. But an opinion that I've formed recently by seeing all these things is you need to have engagement in terms of gaming, in terms of metaverse. If there's no user engagement, people are not going to stick. They'll be there and they'll go off. So for us personally, we come from a gaming background. Our managing partner, he specializes in turning around gaming companies. So we have a very strong gaming background. That's why we are big on gaming, and especially blockchain gaming. And engagement is one of the biggest things that we look for when it comes to gaming. Other things in terms of Web3, we're very bullish on infrastructure. We've been seeing some crazy ideas and crazy products coming out right now with our partners from the accelerators that we've been seeing, especially in Southeast Asia right now. It's really huge. So yeah, those are the two sectors. Other than Web3, we're focusing on future of finance as well. We think that there's huge opportunity there globally, not in any specific geography. But yeah, those are the sectors we're looking at.
Since you mentioned about geography, I mean, oil prices is helping this region a lot. Saudi, UAE, also Qatar. When you look at the geography, I mean, what do you think about UAE? And also, do you have any interest to other regions? Which regions will be maybe more important or growth? Do you have a specific interest to any region?
I think that Dubai and UAE established themselves as a leader here in the MENA region already in the blockchain. Actually, in all sorts of technology. I feel that we were a leader in the fintech time, and now I feel that there is a bit more hype into the crypto sector. And again, they came in front of everybody with regulation, with spaces, acceleration programs. So I would definitely say UAE and Dubai, and Saudi has a lot of potential. They're doing a lot of investment into the metaverse sector, into technology. And then globally, I feel that Portugal started establishing itself as a blockchain capital, which is very interesting. And obviously, we have like the normal financial capitals that now are also into blockchain. I have been the Singapore Blockchain Week, and I was really fascinated of the quality of the crowd there and of the amount of blockchain companies saturated. So I think also in terms of Asia, probably Singapore, and of course Paris and London.
What about you? Any specific country or geography?
So historically, we've been very focused on Europe, but right now, like I mentioned earlier, we're trying to move into Asia and discover more things. Dubai is one of the hotspots, like Paula said. Singapore is another one. That's why we have an office there as well. In terms of Southeast Asia, Vietnam is coming out very well right now in terms of the Web3 development and the adoption. They have a very friendly environment in terms of governance for Web3, and a lot of infrastructure projects, gaming projects are coming out of Vietnam. So Vietnam, Singapore, Dubai, Europe, I think it's the usual suspects. Like Paula mentioned, Portugal, Lisbon is becoming a hotspot for startups right now. There's a lot of accelerators, a lot of good startups coming out of there as well. So yeah, those are the areas that we're keeping our eye on right now.
Okay. Also, I want to leave time for the audience to ask question, but is there any specific topic you want to mention or any key takeaway that people take them away with them? You want to tell the audience? Any key takeaway?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the sector, like the blockchain sector, had been pretty slow in the last few months, and a lot of investors, a lot of retail sort of gave up on it. I think that we're in a very opportunistic time right now. It's always better to see the cup half full. I think that we're in a very opportunistic time right now, and it's a good time to do research, to learn more, and be ready for the next bull cycle, and also pick up in terms of investment. This is not a financial advice, definitely, but this is something I'm observing, what we're doing internally, what I'm observing in trading firms, like picking up companies probably at 1/10 of the valuation that they were just a year ago makes a lot of sense. There is nothing just continues to go down and nothing goes up forever. So there is no never-ending bull cycle. And the same way will be with the bear market. It will definitely end. So I think it's a good time to spend more, to do research, find quality companies, check the valuation. Also, like more early stage are very interesting right now. So yeah, just don't give up on the market, and the bear market would be eventually will finish.
What about you, Vish? What's your recommendation or takeaway message?
Just a very short takeaway message from my end. There's a lot of negative sentiment in terms of raising capital right now, from a startup's point of view. So, just a small takeaway. It's not that hard. Just reach out to investors, talk to investors, and if you have a good product and a good team and some level of traction, you will get invested in and you will raise some round of capital.
Okay, thank you. I think we can have some questions from the audience. If you want to have some questions. Yes, can we give the mic or? Okay.
Firstly, thank you so much, guys. Really, really like the entire discussion that you've all had. I have the same question for both Paula and Wish, which is we've been having the equity versus token debate since a very long time, right? Which is a better way to go for all the founders that are in the Web3 crypto ecosystem? Should they go for fundraising via an equity route, or is token the better way to go? Or like, what is your view on this?
Sorry, I couldn't hear your question exactly. Are you asking when you should start to fundraise, like prior to the launch, or?
No, what I mean is startups are raising money through via tokens and also via an equity route, right? So which is a
Okay.
better way to go?
Token or equity?
Equity or a token, yes.
Yeah, well, I think that the most like crypto native funds prefer to have tokens over equity. But it's also related to the fund and that research that I mentioned earlier. Like if you do your research to who are you approaching, probably this is one of the first questions you need to ask if it's not mentioned already on their website. I think most VCs are doing either just tokens or either just equity. So it's good to know who are you approaching, and based on that, do your strategy. I think that they're completely different offerings. Me as an investor, I am more interested in one or the other based on the business model, because the equity would always reflect your revenue of the company, while the token not always does that. But of course, I feel that tokens that have actual utility and that are reflecting your business model and you can get some revenue in the token are way easier catch for investors.
So for us, it completely depends on the business, really. If there's no need for a token, please don't do it. No investor is going to invest in it, and equity has been the safer route pretty much in the past for the typical Web2 startups. So we, as an investor, we have a token fund and a separate equity fund just to keep things very simple. Tokens, from an investor's point of view, are high risk, high reward. So usually people would get smaller ticket sizes, and from an investor, we try to diversify our portfolio as much as we can if we invest in tokens, because they tend to be more volatile. But yes, it's completely dependent on your business, and don't do anything that's not necessary. We've been seeing in the past that startups have been using just the buzzwords or just building their their product on a blockchain, even if there's no need, even if it can be done easily without it. So yeah, don't go for the buzzwords. Go after the utility. Go after what the users want, and yeah, you will grow and you will succeed.
Any other questions to the panelists? I think we are done. Thank you for listening to us, and thank you for the panelists for this great
Thank
panel.
you.
Thank you, Ersoy.